Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Good morning, friends. Let's get one thing straight. Most of the time, the thing standing between us and the life we want isn't talent, luck, or even circumstances. It's the story we tell ourselves about what's possible. How many times have we whispered, "I can't," when what we really meant was, "I won't"? We convince ourselves that we're stuck, that we're not good enough, that the timing isn't right. But here's the truth. I can if I want to. And so can you. Let's talk about, we are master storytellers. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, our minds are weaving narratives about who we are, what we can do, and what's possible for us. The problem is, not all of these stories are true. When we say, "I can't," we often believe we're making a statement of fact. But more often than not, it's not a fact at all. It's a belief, a perception, a protective mechanism that keeps us from stepping into discomfort. "I can't" is usually just a cover for something deeper. Maybe it's fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. Maybe it's doubt in our own ability, doubt that we deserve the opportunity, doubt that we're the kind of person who does that kind of thing. Maybe it's just an old story we picked up somewhere along the way, something someone told us once, or a message we absorbed from the world around us. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, "I can't do that," only to find out later that you actually could? Maybe you thought you couldn't run a mile, but then one day you tried and did. Maybe you believed you couldn't speak in front of a crowd, but when you had to, you found the words. Or maybe you've been telling yourself for years that you can't change careers, go back to school, write that book, start that business. But deep down, it's not that you can't, it's that it feels uncertain. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like a risk. Here's the thing, when we repeat "I can't" enough times, we start to believe it. And once we believe it, we stop trying. We don't test the limits of what we're actually capable of. We don't push back against the narrative. But what if we did? What if the next time you catch yourself saying, "I can't," you pause and ask, is that really true? What if you challenge that thought and say, what if I actually can? What if you get curious and dig deeper? What am I really afraid of? What's the worst that could happen if I tried? Because when we start questioning the stories we tell ourselves, we begin to see that they aren't unshakable truths. They're just stories. And stories can be rewritten. The real power lies in recognizing that "I can't" is usually just a story. And stories can change. You don't have to be bound by the same old script. You can write a new one that says, maybe I can, maybe I will, maybe I'm stronger, braver, and more capable than I ever let myself believe. We often think of courage as something that just happens to us, a feeling that arrives when the time is right, when we finally feel strong enough, brave enough, or ready enough. But the truth is, courage isn't a feeling at all. It's a choice, a decision we make in the face of fear, uncertainty, and discomfort. If we waited until we felt courageous, most of us would never take action. Because courage doesn't come first. Action does. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. It's raising your hand in a meeting even when your heart is pounding. It's speaking up when your voice shakes. It's stepping into the unknown without any guarantee of success. Think about the moments in your life when you've shown courage. Were you fearless, or were you scared out of your mind but did it anyway? Courage is messy. It's uncomfortable. It often looks like fumbling through an awkward conversation, taking a shaky first step, or making a choice when the outcome is uncertain. But that's exactly why it matters. because it requires us to show up fully, even when we don't have all the answers. And here's the thing, courage isn't just for the big, life-changing moments. We tend to think of it in terms of grand, heroic acts, quitting a job, standing up against injustice, making a life-altering decision. But courage happens in the small, everyday moments too. It's in setting a boundary with someone you love. It's in being honest about what you need. It's in allowing yourself to be seen, even when vulnerability feels risky. Every time we choose courage, no matter how small the act, we build resilience. We prove to ourselves that we are stronger than our fears. And the more we practice choosing courage, the easier it becomes. The fear doesn't necessarily go away, but our ability to move through it grows. The key is recognizing that we don't have to feel ready to be brave. We don't have to wait until fear disappears to take the first step. Courage isn't about eliminating fear. It's about walking alongside it and choosing to act anyway. Because in the end, courage isn't something we wait for. It's something we decide. If something is truly important to you, you'll find a way to make it happen. It's that simple and that complex. We often convince ourselves that we can't do something because of time, money, resources, or some external circumstance. But the truth is, when something matters enough, we will figure it out. We will rearrange our schedules, prioritize what matters, and make sacrifices. The question isn't whether it's possible, it's whether it's important enough for us to put in the work. So think about it. The things we care about deeply always seem to get done, don't they? When we want something badly enough, we make room for it. We push through the obstacles, we search for solutions, and we get creative. We don't wait for the perfect conditions to act because we know that perfection doesn't exist. We act because we know that if we care enough, we will make it happen somehow, some way. But when we say, I don't have time or I can't afford it, what we're really saying is that it's not a priority. Because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And we all have to make choices about where we invest our time and energy. If something is truly important to us, we'll find a way to create the space for it. We'll wake up earlier, stay up later, delegate, ask for help, or figure out how to do it in a way that fits into the life we already have. When we look at the people who seem to effortlessly achieve their goals, it's easy to think that they have some magical secret. But the truth is, they just found a way. They didn't let excuses stop them. They didn't let fear, doubt, or uncertainty dictate their actions. Instead, they were clear about what mattered most and made sure their actions aligned with their values and priorities. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They created the moment themselves. They were a multimillionaire. This doesn't mean it's always easy. Finding a way often requires creativity, persistence, and sometimes sacrifice. There will be days when it feels overwhelming. There will be moments when you question whether it's worth the effort. But here's the key. When something is important enough, we do it anyway. We push through the doubt, the discomfort, and the uncertainty because we know that the outcome is worth the effort. So the next time you tell yourself that something is impossible, ask yourself, is it really impossible? Or is it just not important enough to me right now? Because if it matters, you will find a way. If it doesn't, you'll keep finding reasons why it's not possible. The choice is yours. Perfection is one of the greatest barriers to progress. We've been taught to wait until everything is in place, until we're fully prepared, until we know exactly what to do and how to do it before we take that first step. But the truth is, perfection doesn't exist, not in the way we imagine it. We may wait for the stars to align, for our circumstances to be ideal, or for ourselves to feel completely ready. But by the time we've done all that waiting, we've missed countless opportunities to learn, grow, and move forward. The reality is you don't have to be perfect to make progress. You don't need everything to be flawless, your plan to be fully executed, or your skills to be at the highest level before you try. You simply need to be willing to take that first step even if it feels uncomfortable, willing to make mistakes, willing to be messy, awkward, and imperfect along the way. Think about it, every person who has ever achieved something worthwhile has had to start somewhere. And chances are that first step wasn't perfect. They stumbled, they fell short, they tried and failed. But they didn't let those failures define them. They understood that the journey wasn't about getting everything right from the start. It was about starting in the first place and allowing themselves to grow in the process. Perfectionism is a trap that keeps us stuck. It tells us that we're not good enough until we reach some unattainable standard. It paralyzes us with self-doubt, shame, and fear of judgment. But the only way to combat perfectionism is to embrace the idea that we can start messy and still be successful. We don't need to have all the answers. We don't need to be the best. We just need to be willing to begin. Willingness opens doors. It allows us to take risks, try new things, and step outside of our comfort zones. It's through willingness that we discover what we're capable of. And the more we embrace it, the more we realize that our imperfections are not something to be ashamed of. They are part of what makes us human. And they are often the very things that help us connect with others. When you focus on willingness over perfection, you create space for growth. You learn as you go. You get better with practice, and you stop waiting for the ideal moment to take action, because you understand that there's no such thing as the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. The perfect action is the next one. So give yourself permission to be imperfect. Stop waiting for the conditions to be right or for you to feel completely ready. The only thing you need to start is a willingness to try. You'll figure it out as you go, and the more you do, the more you'll realize that you are always capable of more than you gave yourself credit for. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being willing. And that makes all the difference. For so long, we've been taught to wait for permission. Permission to pursue our dreams, permission to make big decisions, permission to be ourselves. We look to others for validation, for a green light, for someone to tell us that we're ready, worthy, and capable. But the truth is, the only permission we need is the one we give ourselves. How often have you hesitated to move forward because you felt like you weren't approved by someone or something? Maybe it's your family, your friends, your boss, or even society's expectations. We get caught in the trap of seeking external validation because we're afraid of judgment, rejection, or failure. We wait for the right conditions, the right words of encouragement, or the right circumstances to fall into place before we take a leap. But here's the harsh reality. If you're always waiting for someone else to give you permission, you're going to wait forever. The truth is, no one knows you better than you know yourself. No one has the full picture of your dreams, your aspirations, your desires, and your potential. Only you can decide what's worth pursuing. Only you can decide what success looks like for you. And the moment you realize that you don't need anyone else's permission to step into your own power is the moment everything begins to shift. And this doesn't mean we should disregard the value of feedback or guidance from others. Of course, advice and support from trusted individuals can be incredibly helpful, but we need to stop relying on other people's approval to determine our worth and our path forward. You are the one who decides if you're ready. You are the one who decides if it's worth the risk. You are the one who gets to define your own version of success. So, think about it. How many times have you held back from doing something because you didn't think you were allowed to? Maybe you've wanted to ask for a promotion but didn't feel like you had the right to. Maybe you've dreamed of starting a business but thought you needed someone to tell you that you were good enough to succeed. Maybe you've wanted to be vulnerable and show up authentically, but you were afraid others wouldn't accept you for who you truly are. The thing is, every time you hold yourself back, you're waiting for permission that may never come. But what if, instead, you chose to give yourself the green light? What if you decided that you are the permission you've been waiting for? When you take ownership of your own decisions, when you give yourself permission to pursue what matters most to you, you unlock an incredible amount of potential. You stop waiting for someone to validate your choices, and instead, you start trusting your own intuition and instincts. The power of giving yourself permission lies in the freedom it creates. Heck yeah. It's the freedom to fail without fear of judgment, the freedom to grow without comparison, the freedom to create a life that feels aligned with your truest self. And here's the most liberating part. No one else gets to decide how high you can fly. No one else gets to tell you what you're capable of. When you stop waiting for permission from others, you take back control of your own story. You begin to trust yourself more deeply, to take bigger risks, and to step into your full potential with confidence. It's time to stop seeking external validation and start owning your own power. You are the permission you've been waiting for. You are worthy of your dreams, your goals, your success. No one can give you that permission except for you. And the moment you realize that, you will see the world of possibility open up before you. It's all there, waiting for you to take the first step, to claim your space, and to live the life that's meant for you. Because you always had the permission, you just needed to give it to yourself. So the next time you hear yourself say, I can't, I want you to pause, challenge the story, choose courage, be honest about what you really want, start messy, and most of all, give yourself permission. Because the truth is, you can if you want to, and that changes everything. Thank you.